All right, a quick glimpse. I just want to go over because we got the retracement we were looking for. I did enter into this trade. Looks like we're going to cash out here. So I wanted to come over onto that screen before it cashed out. Now we'll come back and actually go over the disclaimers and come back and look at the trade. Did anybody play the retracement in a short-term short trade or the bounce that we just had? If you did, obviously drop into the chat and show us some of your befores and afters. Kimberly says she was on both directions. Way to go. All right. So let's see, disclaimer screen, derivatives class, derivative disclaimer. All right, so the past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. The particular system that we are using is comparative strength analysis, CSA5steps.com. That's where you would go to find the academy. Now, the focus going forward for CSA 5 steps is both triple, I guess can't say both is two, three different focuses. We are focused on youth, right? The youth groups that we're bringing together as part of Teen X. Teen X are the youth groups, just like we used to do in church, just like we used to do when we would come to town with 8 kids. We were the youth group. We were the youth group. And so what we would do is we would have an agreement. It's so exciting being back in my old stomping grounds. There's a place called the Pizza Ranch. The Pizza Ranch. Has anybody ever been to a place called the Pizza Ranch? And the Pizza Ranch, we go in there. It's a buffet. And the agreement was that we had with the youth, anybody that wanted to come to the pizza party had to come to the Sunday service. So we fed the mind first, we fed the belly second. And that's how we expanded our youth group. So we'd come in, literally, there might be 20, 25 people in the youth group. And by the time we were leaving 3 to 6 months later, there would be 250 to 500 kids in the youth group. That was the requirement. Again, you have to come to Sunday service if you want to come to the pizza party. And so that's how we would do youth groups. And then we moved to the next place and rinse and repeat. We would do it again and again and again and again and again. And then once a year, there was a competition that was called Leadership Training for Christ. That was what it's called, LTC. So the LTC program, where we would have all the youth from all over the country, where they would come together and they would, I don't know, compete's really not the word, but they would show off their skills, maybe in song leading, maybe in preaching, maybe in Bible studies, or the ability to memorize certain verses from the Bible, or whatever the case may be. And they would compete. And then they would get, awarded this leadership training for Christ. So why do I say that? Why do I bring us to that point of why is that important? Well, to me, if you're really going to go gold is for God or God is for gold, then you can't pass over the youth, right? So we were just having discussion, Rena and I, to where if you tried to explain what I do to your kids or your grandkids, they're going to miss something, right? Because just like if I send my kids over to their friend's house and Bob over there at the friend's house told them a couple of things and they came home, they were all excited that they heard it from Bob. And I'm thinking, that's what I've been telling you for the last 5 years. You wouldn't hear it coming from me. Oh, Dad, come on now. And so you wouldn't hear it coming from me, but hearing it from Bob, Bob's brilliant. I agree with Bob because that's the exact same thing I was telling you, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they could hear it from another person. They couldn't hear it from Dad, right? So it could be, oh, Mom, oh, Dad, that type of thing. If they're not used to getting their financial counsel from you, right? Then it's going to be hard for you to teach them finance. So where you can bring them to class and let me look brilliant for a moment, it may be the exact same thing you've been telling them for the last 20 years, but they can't hear it coming from you. They've got to hear it coming from a official third party, Dr. Eastman. So they're going to come here, Dr. Eastman, tell them about finances and that type of thing. All right. So We're focused on the youth. We're focused on the young professionals. The young professional is the individual about the time they graduated high school. They've decided what they want to be when they grow up. They're off to college. They're getting exposed to, they can get a loan, they can get a credit card, they can go get their first car, they can go get their first home or apartment or whatever. They're out from underneath your roof, right? How do you know? When you used to come down and look around the table and everybody was eating your food, and now you come down and look around the table and nobody's there. They call that empty nest, right? And that's where a lot of us, our age, right, that 50 to 60 something, we're in that. We did a good job. The kids are off to school. They're pursuing their dreams. At this point, we kind of turned it back over to God. It was always in his hands, but we just made the introduction, you know. And we hope that they do some of what we taught them to do or be about as we built that character in them, right? But even then, oh, mom, oh, dad, we may have decided absolutely no drinking in our house. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You know, we may have came on a little bit hard and heavy because we wanted them to see their 19th birthday, right? And so they got to that point. They're off to school or college, university. They're making their own decisions, hopefully good ones, but they have to have a chance to fail forward. Think back to when you were a teenager. Think back to when you were 20 something. You had to have the opportunity to make your own decisions, your own mistakes, and go your own way, right? It's for this reason that you leave mother and father and become one with your spouse. That's the reason. Is mom and dad can't run your life your whole life, right? And so we're looking for those young pros. And then we're looking for those now that we're our empty nester crew, where we're either going through a career change. We were told during the pandemic we were non-essential. We were either unemployed or underemployed based on the degrees and the experiences that we have. And this is the condition as I've been traveling the country, millions of people are in that category. And so as the baby boomers have the money that they would like to transfer that wealth to the next generation, but they don't want to just give it to the next generation. They want them to understand it. Family offices are so important in today's world as a transference of wealth that do not create a tax obligation. Taxable event. You can give your child, each of your children, $10,000 a year without creating a taxable event. But if you want to do more than 10,000, you're going to have to be a little more creative and use some segments of the law that do exist. All right. So these segments, those three-legged stool, right? Young, youth, young professional, and the transition of 50, 60 something. All right. So if you're in that category or want to be in one of those categories and help in some way, I am going to be doing a little bit of coaching with Miss Rena after we get done with this session on what it means to be part of a engagement specialist team. She's got some recordings right now that I believe are worth millions into the hands of the right people because she got to see behind the scenes what really goes on. She's going to get the chance to pick my brain and take some notes. And what is the next step? I've got this valuable footage, right? Anybody remember the Bush Bean dog, right? He's got that valuable bean footage, but he ain't talking, right? And so we're going to teach you how to talk about the secret recipe of how we do what we do. And that is then a valuable commodity through a referral or affiliate program. Not network marketing. I don't care if I ever network market another day in my life, but I do like the byproduct of that is people that are interested and you have something to give them. And in exchange of value, the byproduct is your account gets bigger. Your bank account gets bigger, but it also fills your heart because you know you helped somebody along their way, right? So we are the hands and the feet, right, to get out that message, that good news. All right, so if I got a little preachy, you can take it for what it's worth. And then you just date stamp and time stamp right now. If you don't want the preachy, you can fast forward to this part right here. and you can get to the next trade. All right. So we came up, we challenged the top, but we didn't break the top. So what does that mean? That means to me, it's time for another trade. So we got another trade popping up on the screen as we come down, cancel pending lower gone, come in and see where my top is, 44.28 and change. So we're going to go with 44.30. We're going to be optimistic about our taking out of the top, 44.30. And it's actually optimistic enough. It was just off the top of the page, 44.30. So that is our take profit goal. As we retrace, then we arm ourselves with the ability to add 5. And because of coming off of this retracement, we caught the last trade. That last trade produced, what was it, in history, because we rebooted, 251 per. So we added another 25,000 into the account, and we were up at 3. You wrote that number down. What was that number?
3510.
3510. So 351,000 is what we'd added into the big account. We added another 25, so 376,000 into the big account. So we had to do a reboot. Well, I don't know if we had to. I thought it was wise because of just some odd things that were going on in the software, as Robert was checking on the back end of that. Didn't affect the ability of the software. More than likely, it was probably a CoinEx issue, some kind of a latency that triggered something in the back end. And so that would be my guess. I've used the software enough. I am never going to default to, well, the software must have messed up. More times than not, the software is perfect, did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was something going on either in the brokerage, in the back end, so far and so forth. So as we get the information back on that, I always think it's good to have a clean start, right? Since Robert was here, I didn't have any fear in doing a reboot and keep right on trading. If he hadn't been here, I'd probably just been done trading for the day. Because if it's a problem I can't explain and the solution is outside my control, then I know I'm not going to fix it. I just let it go. And then when Robert gets back with me, hey, I found the problem. You were right. It has nothing to do with the software. CoinEx was doing ABC or MetaQuotes was doing XYZ. Then we know the answer to the question. But I'm not going to get caught in the middle of a problem and not have the resources to fix it myself. I can't, because I've got a fiduciary responsibility to those of you that are clients and those that are in the hedge fund. And we were talking about a couple of things where, when you had to protect a large amount of drawdown, what did you do? Well, it's the same thing I did here. It's just a different percentage to be able to come in and protect large amounts of money. Okay. Yeah, really large. All right, so we are getting up to the point that we're getting ready to take potentially the 6th entry. So under trades, what's called trades in the software, we're 5. That means we've taken the 1 market entry, the 4 additional entries, and there's one more. That green line that up here at the top, right? Remember, we were talking earlier that when it triggers, the line changes from green to white. And that's exactly what it's doing. So we're getting a retrace. I'm not going to add the 5 until we get down to about right in here, if we come down that far. If I had not raised my take profit target and been willing to accept about 150 to 180, we'd already been out of this trade. All right. Let's go over and update our trading view chart. So we're going to change our screen share, going over to screen 3, share. And over here, we're going to slide the dollar over, right? That's a trade from earlier. We're going to cancel that alert. We're going to grab our bullseye. We're going to grab our squaring of the circle. We're going to bring the gold out to the full screen. As you can see, we hit some higher highs. So capture those higher highs. We've got our lower lows. And we had the retrace down to 50%. We just played that 50% bounce, right? So now we're up in this area. There's my retracement for adding 5. I didn't catch it on the bottom of the wick. You do not see that on your screen because they are looking at this screen. We're seeing the retrace, anybody that's actually watching the software. We did the retrace. That means now I need about a 44, 24.63 is my break even. So that means I need about 2 to 2.5 above that. So 24, 5, 6, and 7. 44.27 is going to be my new target. 44.27. And we'll mark that on the screen in just a moment. That'll drop my green line down to the top of that red candle in the middle of the grid. Here's my break even. And that's what we're looking for over there. I'm just showing that to Rena as she is recording it for us on my side of the screen, what it looks like. And add 10 if we need it. If we drop down in this area, we'll add 10. Okay. All right. So now back over here on your screen, we're going to take that, minimize it back up here to the upper left. And we've got our dip that we're experiencing here on the screen. And we want the 44.27, 44.27 right up in here is the area we're looking for. Now, if we add the 10, then that'll drop our break even down into this area. And we'll be playing the upper end of the consolidation. All right. Anybody in this trade or playing the short-term short opportunity? Waiting for more confirmation. Absolutely. So for me on the spot trade, I want to come in around this 44.16, which will cost average me down below the 44.22. And then we'll get our bounce. Or we'll get our bounce here. So we're going to change back over and share screen, jump back over to the software. So I'm looking at this area down here. What I want to see, because now we've had from our top, where it's a very close test, but it didn't take it out. Very close test, but did not take it out. So now we're getting our bounce to come back and test the top end of the red candle. If we don't get that, then it'll come down and take out the low end of the red candle. Sure what that means.
I got that on video. I got that.
You bet. Everybody say good morning to Dr. Taylor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
She's got a voice this morning. That's exciting. This cold weather has been hitting her sinus and breathing it into the lungs. And if you're used to Jamaica weather and you get that kind of weather, the Arctic blast that we were getting, it's like, So we wanted to catch it before she got some kind of a sinus infection.
Those were some great Facebook pictures. Beautiful.
Oh my God.
Everybody.
So pretty.
You too, Professor.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So I forgot. I posted those because I was sick.
We're looking at each other. It's like, which ones?
Dan. See, he's still smiling.
So as we're waiting for the trade to play out, I have two of my relatives of the aunt and uncle. My dad was one of five kids. He was the youngest of five kids. And Jack Eastman, still living, he had his 80th birthday. And Miss Carolyn, which married into the family of the older brother from my dad, Ronald. My dad's name was Donald. And so Carolyn is still alive. And so Carolyn and part of her clan, which you may have heard Rena even talked about once upon a time, was Teresa Eastman at the time, McCaslin now, as she married into the McCaslin family. And Seth McCaslin was actually just recognized. Not that anybody in here necessarily needs it, but if you hear this on the recording and you're from the Winfield, Arkansas City area, Seth McCaslin was just named Fireman of the Year, and quite the accomplishment. I just went by what is now the new fire station, which is completely redesigned from how I remember it. Fire and police and sheriff on the backside. So quite the complex that they put together there in Winfield. If you haven't been by there, yeah. So the fire station used to face, and there was a street. That street doesn't go through anymore. And now they've taken what used to be the middle school and they've redone that entire area. Beautiful construction. And for those that are old enough to remember Winfield, I was just visiting with somebody just visiting the other day, when they tried to tear down the old high school, they hit it with a wrecking ball and it bounced off the wall. It's like it was condemned, but the outer walls were so solid that they really had to become creative on how to take it down. Back when they used like 18-inch walls, I mean, the thing was concrete, but it was solid. And it had three gymnasiums. You remember we were talking to the individual that runs the Edge, which was part of the Nutcracker production. So we went to the party after the party of the Nutcracker, and we were down there visiting with this wonderful couple that runs the Edge, Lindley, right? I remember he spells it wrong. There you go. But that used to be the old Lindley store. They've converted to the Edge, which is where the dance production and choir production, and they do all these different things in there. He was a graduate. Let me think. He said he graduated in 73. The couple that owns the Edge, so shout out to them. And no, Ron sold the building. He's moved on and done other things, but I get pictures of him though from all over the Caribbean. But yeah, he's off enjoying life. So
good. I used to be his shoulder to ground.
So it has been really fun when I'm meeting different people. Is yeah, I was born, I raised here, I grew up here, I graduated this year, that year, whatever. I always ask them what their last name is, because I may not know you, but I may have known your parents, your grandparents, your whatever. Because Winfield and Arkansas City, we're not talking. This is not like growing up in a Chicago or a Dallas or a just because you're from Chicago doesn't mean you know everybody in Chicago. But if you grew up in Winfield, you probably know most of the names of people in the Winfield, at least the last name, right? The legacy of the last name. And hopefully they're not fighting like the Hatfields and McCoys, both last names. But so we're going to have
If you spelled anything wrong, you know you do.
You're not doing it right.
You're very new.
That's it. Get with plan. All right. So we didn't push out low enough to add the 10. We did push out low enough to add the 5, which has us now coming back into the break-even territory. Another $1.50 higher, we'll be into the break-even. And so if we go into the top half of the current red candle that we're building on, then we'll be looking to cash out. If we challenge or do the second, third push to the lower side, we'll take out the bottom of that red candle and start looking to add our 10. You get anything to eat? Did you want anything to eat?
No.
No.
This is great.
Because it's got freaking in it.
Dinner. They were working.
Sausage, just sausage.
Oh,
It's sausage.
that was beef.
I went down to one of what was the old depots in Winfield, Kansas. They tore down the main depot in the old days, but I went down there. They've converted it into a new restaurant, and we tried the new restaurant, and it is Shindig.
Ron Carroll.
So the Shindig, and that's where we went last night to try some of the food at the Shindig. Very good, very good.
Janet Carroll.
That's who owns it, okay? The Carrolls.
Maybe I didn't. He started a business. So I see him.
All right, so we're testing the low end of that red candle now. We've got our 10 ready to go. I'd like to see one, what we would call an exhaustion push, which would take us down into the low end of this candle. And that's kind of what it's doing right now. So we're trying to catch the down push right there. We've added the 10, dropped us down. Like I said, that would drop us down to a 44, 21, 22, and it did. So now I only need about a 44, 23, and it'll be one of our better trades of the day. So 44, 23. Because we added 10 here to take any profit above where we added 5, you've got 10 and 5 or 15 times the 0.25. So you're pushing off of 1, 2, 3 contracts. So one tick is worth more on 3 contracts than the move we would have got up here when we only had 1.25 on the total grid. That's some of that math that when I used to get all excited about it, and Kimberly says, I don't know, that must be a big thing because he keeps going on about it. I didn't really understand all the math, right? And that is typical. You don't want to pigeonhole all females, but females typically, or they get the artistic, the fashion, the right side of the brain, where us men, we're abstract thinkers. We think more in diagrams and blueprints and mathematical abstract concepts. And so you'll ask us a question. Our brain goes to work on trying to solve the math. Then you'll ask us something that we consider foolish. How do you feel about that? And it cramps our brain. Feel, what's that got to do with this? What do I feel about it? I feel like it needs to be done. So we think abstractly. That's what that whole book, that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And so they get the emotional thing. And God understood that when he said that we complete each other, or we become a helpmeet for each other. We fill in each other's blind spots in a perfect world. But then a lot of things that we do along the way where decisions are made or decisions are made for us, we've got a lot of women that are functioning in men roles because by default, the man's nowhere to be found, right? So anytime I'm dealing with single moms, and single moms make great traders if they can add one more task to their multitask list. It's like trading. When would I possibly even have time for that? I've got 3 kids, 5 kids, I've got whatever. And I've got, 3 jobs to try to keep up with those 3 to 5 kids or whatever. And so, but if they ever find the time, when they become passionate about it, when they understand it, when they get it, when they have the eureka moment, they make the best traders I've ever trained. Because they're doing it for a reason of passion. This is what's going to put my kids through college. This is what's going to, take care of multi-generations of my family. So that maternal instinct kicks in and you've got a maternal banker. To put the pressure on you guys, right? There you go. That's right. They have a strong why. Once they know why they're doing it. Yes, ma'am. It's in my room. You can go to my room, but I was in a hurry to come down here. My key is in my room too. So if you have them rekey it, it's right in there on that little couch thing. along with your water that I brought you last night.
Because
All right, so this is the push. We didn't change from the 10 to the 20, so we will, just in case, that we push down into that lower area. So what it would have to do is we're looking for this push, challenging the center, or what we call the range, and to push and take us out. But if we do push and challenge this area, this line down here, we'll come in and take the 20, right? So look at the spacing here. Look at the spacing here. The next spacing is right down here to challenge this line here. And that's where we'll add our 20. Time frame, how we doing? A little over 15 minutes left as we push down lower.
oh,
Dancing along there.
and
Taking out that wick right there, right? That was my first push to take out that wick. So it'll push, it'll retrace. Secondary push will take out that level. So we'll get our name, our ready on the add button if we need it. If that is the fractal point, before we need to add 20, it'll come up and cash us out. So we need to see, was that the exhaustion push, or is the second move down the exhaustion push? So this is the area to beat on its move lower if it's going to move lower. It tested the area, it took out the area. Nothing says it has to go down here. So being conservative and not hitting the 10, 20, right? I've got my 5, I've got my 10, I've got my 20. But if it would have shot through and ended up down here, I need that 20 in reserve to take it if it becomes really negative. So now what we want to see time-wise is if over the next, where are we at, 30 seconds, going into the next 5-minute candle, I'm looking up here, there's a counter that Robert gave us up here on the software that counts down on mine's 5-minute candle. So this is the countdown to the next 5-minute candle. So on that next 5-minute candle, I'm looking to see if we bounce on the next candle as we start to build it. Does it start building red or does it start building green? And now we're right there to 1 next candle. Does it start building red or does it start building green? Well, right now it's pushing red. So does the second, third push take out this 44, 13, and 37, getting ready on my add in case we push down into that area? Because it's a 5-minute candle and we work on a 50-50, then what does it do over this next 2.5 minutes? Taking out the low, pushing lower, and 3, 2, 1. There it goes. And there's the add. Okay. So we push through 3, 2, 1. Now it still may go another one, but that has me at 44.17. So now I don't need to get up here above the 5. I need to get it up here above the 10 and cash out right there. So to come out now around the 44.18, 18.50. So we'll make an adjustment on our target, 44.18.5, and about there. That brings us into profit above our break even. It gets us up above where we added our 10, and that will put us into a very nice profitable position of about $700 to $800 on an individual account, or 80,000 on the big account that we have to add to our 350,000 or where we're at now. We had to do a reboot there.
I can't count that big. Is that it down there?
Because we did our reboot, right?
Uh-huh.
So we don't have the cumulative balance right here
Mhm.
that we had before we had to do that reboot. And I say had, we didn't have to, but sticking to my trading plan,
It's 35,000.
again, if I have a problem that I do not understand and it's beyond my control to fix it, I'm done trading for the day, but Robert said, probably this, probably this. We sent the support ticket. We did a reboot and we went ahead and continued to trade.
It's 35,000.
35,000. So that's on the per 10, right? So what we do is when we read here, I'm reading the edge.
Mhm.
This is where we're at on the edge. Of course, we're in a trade, so it's fluctuating. So it would have been like 350 times 10, that 3,500.
Mhm.
Then you take it times another 10, because each of those 10 pushes to 10, and you're at that 35,000, right?
Yes.
Because we were at 35,000, that meant our individual was 3,500, 35,000, 350,000 in the big fund. Now we're pushing back up above break even. Notice our take profit is pushing $400, $500 on an individual trade. So this third push up through this line is going to be literally 900, 1,200 are the numbers that we're seeing, which means this one trade in the big account's 120,000 on one trade. And it just went through, just cashed out, locked out the position, no movement in the numbers. So we come into history and we say we might have been in the trade a little bit longer than we wanted to be in the trade at what, 26 minutes and 24 seconds, but it was one of our most profitable trades of the day.
Oh my God.
So when I say, because now what was the feeling when we had to add 5 and we were in drawdown, and we had to add 10 and we were in drawdown, and we had to add 20 and our max drawdown is this number up here.
5216.
So now remember, that was our max drawdown per account. We were in the hole $520,000 seconds before. Then we cashed out and we're 120,000 in profit. So a swing of $600,000. Now, could you tell in my voice that just a few moments ago I was down $500,000?
We were,
Yeah.
wow.
If we had been forced to cash out, we were down $500,000. Now, why was I willing to do that? Because of the safety net. The safety net would have made me 1.2 million if I had to cash out. So I was willing to go 500,000 in the hole. That's the way what we would call the pendulum swings.
That's the aggressive trader.
That is the aggressive trader in me, because it's nothing for me to be down $1 million. 1 minute, go get myself another cup of coffee, come back over and sit down and say, oh, well, that turned out nice. And now I'm up $1 million, down $1 million, up $1 million, right? So it's the safety and security of consistency and patience of seeing this, right? This is obviously not my first rodeo. It's not my first trade. Well, of course you can do this, Mr. Eastman. You've been doing it for 40 plus years. But what I've gained over those 40 plus years is, yeah, I've seen this kind of drawdown before. And it came right into the area, right? Did you hear me say 3, 2, 1, and I added the trade? That was when we did that deep push right down there and added that trade.
How did you know it was going to do that?
Because I was sitting next to you and I just felt it. Because it was the exhaustion move. Remember, I said I'm working off a 5-minute candle. That first 2.5 minutes is very important. I looked at the timer, I looked at the countdown, and I literally counted it down 3, 2, 1. And right when I said 1, it did the exhausted. And I came in, it wasn't the very bottom, but that's about as close as you're going to get. That square on the bottom of that wick is where we added the 20 positions. So allowing us then on the top of that wick, same candle, top of that wick to cash out. One of our best trades of the day.
Wow.
All right.
Sure.
So any other questions? about the how or the why or the. We'll come into there. We'll do a reset there. Getting rid of the max drawdown, zeroing those out, making sure I'm not seeing any movement in here. And before we cash out for the day, I'll go through all 10 accounts and make sure that they are flat at zero. That one's not moving, so we know that we're good on the Commander account, and I think we're probably good on the others. I'm not seeing any movements in here. If one of these in the trade were still moving, then that tells me something's going on, and I could go into the details of any one of these.
So you have that one clicked, but none of the other ones?
Right, you click your Commander, you add all the other accounts, right? So you end up across the bottom, 10 accounts, 10 connections, 10 active. All right, so let's give some kudos out, right, to Robert and Kimberly, obviously for the software and all the math that happened in the background there. I didn't have to make any of those calculations. I didn't have to figure out where my break even was. So the ability to just free me up to trade, to free me up to focus on the pattern, to free me up to say, is this a retail trade? Is this an institutional trade? Does it have volume that says, well, we got a couple of retail traders getting in and out of positions? Whoa, that was a big trade. We've got some whales that are coming in here and they're moving some big numbers, big volume. I do not trade price. I trade volume. Because if you trade price, two people make an agreement. I decide to sell you my car and I'm willing to take 10,000. I don't have 10,000. Well, what do you got? If we agree on 7,000 and that works like a good deal to you, it's a good deal to me. I wanted 10, but 7. Okay, well, I paid 5 for it. So yeah, that works. I sell it to you to 7. We have two people, meeting of the mind, that came together on the price of something. That's what happens when a retail trader comes in and says, well, I need to sell, a couple of mini lots, right? But if somebody came in with 200 lots, that wasn't a retail agreement. That is a broker or a bank or somebody that's moving some large money. When you consider that a lot is 100,000 ounces of gold, and 100,000 ounces of gold at $4,400 per ounce. Now that's some big money. And so that's what we're looking at. And then somebody just moved 200 of those contracts. That's a ton of money. So you're literally waiting in on a trade where billions of dollars are changing hands. Am I going to worry about my one little $1 million? Right? Are you going to worry about your little $10,000, right? That doesn't mean to be careless, but it does remind me that we're at the big boy table, right? This is where the big boys are playing. And so we're going to come in, and when I say literally almost a biblical feature, to capture the scraps off their table, they're not even going to miss them. To them, those were scraps. If you make $10,000 a day, you're receiving the scraps off the master's table. But that $10,000 a day, that's going to do a huge thing for you and your family, right? Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Sukumar, how you doing? How do you reassess your puts now? Are you forced to cash them out, expiry, or keep adding onto them? So we did, because let me go back over to my other screen, share, back over to our trading view, because that's where we're doing our markups. And let's bring our gold chart back out. And I'm going to do something I did last night, is I'm taking my 5-minute markup and I'm going to a daily chart. Then I'm going to take my, get rid of the study panel at the bottom, plus, 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 plus. All right, now we're going to go back over to where we were the last time we came up into this area. All right, does everybody remember the last time we pushed up towards 4,400? Right, we were talking about it. It was back over here. This is November, this is December. Back in October, we were on that big push. And we marked our upper limits, 4,400, we hit it. So 25 above that was 4,425. 50 above that was 4,450. This morning or overnight, we came up and challenged and took out that level. So now the question is, do I just let those expire? Do I roll them out? What do I do? Well, when I bought them over here, I cashed out on those because I needed them. Off the high, we retraced $500. So $500 when you're at 4,400, that's a 10% correction. We call it a correction at 10%. We call it a crash at 20%. 40% is like we're waiting for the depression to move back in, right? And so then every time it started moving up, I was not buying based on this high over here. I was buying based on the recent high. If it's more than 2 to 4 weeks back, I'm playing the recent high. So we came back up to this area and I needed to get the 4275s and the 4300s. Then I cashed out on those. It came back up to recent high. I got those. I cashed out on a few of those. But for those I rolled out because they didn't drop $100, $200. There was no need to cash out on them. They still had value. So the ones that we're buying this morning up here at the 4475 and the 4500, how much time do I need on them? Am I buying December protected puts? No, there's not enough time left on them, right? So I want something that's 4, 6, 8, preferably 6 to 8 weeks out into the future. So if December's almost over, at a minimum, I'm going to be doing January, but February, even March, I'm not going to go too far out in the future because I'm paying more time value than I want to pay for them. But the sweet spot for me is about 6 to 8 weeks out. So 6 to 8 weeks out, I take the new pool of money, right? So if we made 375,000 today, then how much do I want to put into that reserve pool? 10%. So 10%, $37,500. That is the part that I'm just setting there, right? That's not a bad yearly salary, right? For my kids saying, okay, I'm minimum wage. I mean, they're making some good money. Now, for somebody that's been on a job a while, they want to make 3 times that, right? To be 100,000 plus per year. So I'm looking at something I'm willing to take out of the profits of the day, take 10% and set it over into a pool, and then I'll probably have profits the next trade day, next trade day, next trade day. So over the next 6 weeks, I plan on more than 90% of those being winning trades. So I've always got this nice pool of reserve money ready to buy options when I need them. So we did announce that the fund has doubled. And we're getting ready to open up now through, and you wrote down most of the details on that last time, didn't you, Miss Robin? If you're already in the fund, you have the ability to come back and add to your holdings. One of the things I think I did not cover, Miss Robin, for our notes, is if you're already in the fund, the fees that we had to come into the fund, you don't have to pay the fees again. You're already in the fund. So that $50 per unit, that's waived. You're already in the fund. So there is no onboarding process. You're in the fund. But if you're new coming into the fund, you'll have to pay the fees, right? We're not going to charge you the new amount for the fund. You're coming in at the original amount. because I'm selling them out of my holdings and making them available. So it's just clients' money in that fund. I took money out of the big fund to come over into the other fund. So we're trading a real $1 million in the fund. For accounting purposes, now I'm going to sell you my portion of anybody that wants to increase their number of units. Now, understand when you buy these new units, you're not a new client, right? You're just a client with more units. So maybe you had 10, now you've got 20. Maybe you had 20, now you got 30. It's however many units. You don't have to come in on increments of 5 or 10. If you want to add 7, you can add, you just can't do a partial unit. Does have to be a full $1,000. And you can't come in as a new client with $1,000. I do not have that approved, and we're not going to compromise the fund by upsetting the regulators. I do believe by the end of the first quarter, we'll be able to allow a new fund with a pooling agreement as low as $1,000. Now we will have to debate at the time, just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should, because people tend to gamble the lower the price increment. So I don't know how many of you go to the casinos, but there's a lot more people playing blackjack at the dollar table, the $5 table, than there is over at the $50 and $100 table. But you did. That's right. That's right.
We're going New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
See, mine was,
Excellent. Excellent.
I said it's the 18th.
Everybody make sure you get ready. She's just announcing over here something about there's a birthday win. On the 31st, Dr. Taylor has a birthday on December the 31st.
I think you guys should go to, with us, to Newport, the beautiful hotel there,
Yes.
and you're giving away over $40,000 throughout the day.
That's right. We used to give away cars and things as I worked with the different ones in the Indian Nation. And you could, because the Indians do run the different casinos in what is known as the Panhandle area of Oklahoma, which is where my bank is, just down into that area.
See, we have enough to find.
So we used to run promotions, everything from the Wheatland Jam to the things that we ran. And many times the casinos or the Indian Nation was one of our sponsors. We tried to do something in Rock, Kansas, which is, that was, my family grew up in that area.
That's my mother. My mom did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So unless you're going to Rock, Kansas, most people don't know where Rock, Kansas were, but we were going to take 2 of the farmers. They were going to let us use their land and do a kind of a reenactment of Woodstock. And if anybody went to the reenactment of Woodstock, it was not in Rock, Kansas, and it was crazy because the generation back in the 60s, they were crazy, but they were peaceful. So imagine crazy and non-peaceful. That didn't turn out well. All right. How are we doing here? We are after the half hour. We're going to wrap it up with that. So anybody that wants the information for coming into the fund, I prefer that you do it during the beginning of this week, if possible, because as we get into the holidays, if you do need it to be before the end of the year, that's pretty much today, tomorrow, so you don't get into the banking holidays and the things like that. If you're not worried about that, that's not a problem. Then we'll pick back up on things that first week in January, but then you are pushing the line of missing the deadline to come in on the agreement. So however you want to do that, perfectly fine with me. Banks are still getting funny about the money and trying to transfer large amounts of money. And you may want to transfer it at a certain time or certain date. And they may say, I'm posing for a picture. And so they may say, yeah, we've got to clear up this or clear up that. And anybody that tried to do the banking transfers, even a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Banks are just, again, they're getting funny about money. They're getting a lot tighter about, they want to protect you from yourself. I don't care if they protect me from the rest of the world, but if I said transfer the money, so just don't work yourself into the deadline if you don't need to. All right, so we're going to wrap it up with that. We are going to stop our screen share. We agreed, make sure I understand this correctly. We agreed we're coming in on Wednesday, but I heard as a non-trading session that it was a Q&A to better understand micro and macro economics and some things that are getting ready to happen as we go into the new year. And there might be a few of you that have seen there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes right now. And if you'd like to get a little insight as to how to better understand some of those things, and maybe even better how to prepare for some of those things, we're not going to have it be a trading conversation per se. So we can just kind of talk how money really works. The ability to get into what's getting ready to happen. And you can invite guests. It is open invitation to invite guests, family members, extended family members, to come in and try to, it's kind of our year-end State of the Union and what's getting ready to happen. We'll let the government come in with their State of the Union after the first of the year. We want to get you ahead of that, right? So you kind of got a precursor of some things that are getting ready to go down. All right. So same time, same place, discussion is going to be more broad term. And we may only do the first hour, hour and a half instead of taking a break, and then just not have a tier 4 time frame wise. Okay. All right, so that'll be it then. Save anything you want in the chat. We're going to wrap up the session. Let's see, I think we have to take that out of the way in 3, 2.
Thanks.